Hello and welcome back, everyone. Flavour Friday. Today we are going to be taking a look at Tinto Flavour number 33, which is the flavor for China in the upcoming game with the codename Project Caesar. We are a little bit strapped for time, so we are going to be a little bit quicker about it, but this is one we've been looking forward to for a while. China seems incredibly strong. We did see some of the bonuses from the Middle Kingdom on Wednesday, stuff like plus 50 cultures capacity, really just an absolute behemoth of a country, and so let's take a deeper look at the actual country itself rather than just the Middle Kingdom IO. Although next week, on next Wednesday, that of course will be a happy Wednesday, we will be covering the Red Turban Rebellion situation, which is a characteristic of China. But let's jump in. Hello and welcome to another edition of Tinto Flavour. Of course, no Flavour Friday, Happy Friday, or anything like that, because we have Roger on the mic. Today we will be continuing our Chinese focus and take a look at the flavor content for China. Here we encounter the curious situation where China at the start of the game, the Yuan dynasty, is not really Chinese but Mongolian. He told them they were faking it. So some of the content will be specific for that, while the other is general for the China tag. Of course, if the situation of the Red Turban Rebellion, we did play a little bit of China, but we didn't really get that deep. If the situation of the Red Turban Rebellion is too hard to win against, then you can switch sides and play as Ming. And so in either case, either Yuan or Ming is probably going to be the strongest tag in the game. We did take a look at them. They have like 1,000 locations. It's very overwhelming to play. But established by Emperor Borjin Kublai, the Great Yuan now controls the vastness of the Great Dynasty. Having tamed China under Emperor Kublai's great leadership, they managed to reach new heights of prestige and splendor. However, their influence over the subcontinent is waning. Internal strife, instability, and cultural friction has replaced what was once prosperous and magnificent. Those who wish to dethrone them and usurp their mandate are gathering in their strength. Plotting and scheming within Yuan's borders, they seek to find weakness within the dynasty's rules, vying for scraps of power and a seat at the books of history. Only one can sit on the dragon throne, aka the Iron Throne, and fulfill the will of the heaven. So we will have Great Yuan. Interestingly enough, one of the things we tried to do as soon as we loaded in was release subjects. You can't release any subjects as Great Yuan, so you're not trapped in there with... Wait. Yeah, they're not trapped in there with you, you're trapped in there with them. The potential people who are going to break away, some of which are going to be the cultures. We see Wu, Gan, Zhongyuan, Jin, all of these are breakaway states that can eventually form Ming, kind of per our memory of this stuff, although Wu is like the one we've seen quite a bit. And we do see that we are mainly Sanjiao, but also, just notably, our primary culture is Mongolian. Is that Mongolian? Is that Mongolian? Is that Mongolian? Mongolian's one of these teeny tiny slivers right here. And so it's kind of an interesting situation, and that's why you need 50 culture capacity to just be able to accept all the cultures. Tolerate all the cultures. I'm not even sure if you start out accepted. But also, take a look at them ducats. That's buckets of ducats, baby. That's a whole lot of cheddar. And so there's a lot doing 91 million pops, frame of reference. There's like 6 million pops at game start in like France or Castile, roughly speaking, in either of those. And so, 15x the size. And so 15x the size of what is also just a kind of big country in like Castile, for example. A different map of the one shown from last Monday. Is this the terrain map? In what way is it different? I'm not sure exactly in what way it's different, but I guess that's a special hint. A special hint for special watchers. Okay. They start with a unique reform, Legacy of Emperor Borjin Kublai, which will give you plus 3 cultures capacity. This is a major reform, and we saw the Middle Kingdom gives you plus 50, so plus 3 is kind of a drop in the bucket. However, if at some point you lose access to the Middle Kingdom, something like this, then the plus 3 will be kind of nice. That's actually a very large amount. So as far as reforms go, that's really good in the abstract, but in the context of what's going on, it's like you have so much of this bonus already, it's like the value of it's heavily diluted. And another government reform available to all Chinese or Sinnicized countries. We did see a look at this, I think, on Wednesday. Set policy costs, change policy costs, administrative capacity. These aren't very good bonuses, but +1 government reform. So if it's free, which it is, it's for me. And so, okay, it's free. Unique advances, they also what allows for strengthened ministry action available in the Middle Kingdom. Oh, well, this is good to know as well. So, I mean, you want to slot it in because it's free. So, unique advances, some of these general for China, others unique for Yuan, and others unique for Chinese-ruled China. Okay, so we will see Confucian influences in Age of Traditions, so just right off the bat here. We will see efficiency of cabinet plus 5%, a minus 33% prime promotion cost modifier. I don't really think that currently, or from what we remember, it seems to be the case that, like, promoting prime cabinet member or promoting cabinet, like, these aren't very expensive actions, so this is maybe not the biggest deal. But efficiency of cabinet plus 5%, I do think there are some texts that just only give that, and so that seems solid enough. And then, of course, it's Age of Traditions, so almost all the Age of Traditions texts you just start out with, so that's just, you're absolutely thrilled with it. We see successors of Genghis Khan, which we assume are if you were playing Yuan rather than playing, you know, Chinese one. We get monthly legitimacy plus 0.1. It's fine enough. And then we have in the Li Jia system in the Age of Renaissance, a little bit of hints in the text. Are there any? By granting land and agricultural rights, nothing really hinting at whether or not this is Yuan or general Chinese, but proximity cost minus 5%, strong modifier. It's strong as you stack more and more of it, is kind of an important thing to note in regards to how the math works, but this is generally a modifier we're really interested in. We don't have a spreadsheet now, but it really, like, both market access and control really compound in terms of how it affects the bottom line and the efficacy of your buildings, and it's so hard to, like, under stress just how important it is. And this is just an effectively enormous force multiplier in a bunch of other ways. And there's, like, trickle-down effects because more control means more crown power, which means less malices, which means bonuses get applied more to your overall income, and these types of things in the form of you're not getting negative production efficiency, tax efficiency, trade efficiency if you're under 25 crown power. So, coming more, we have the Censorate, Age of Discovery, crown power plus 25%. That's pretty big on a tech in terms of the quantity of crown power, and crown power in general is pretty solid. Age of Discovery tech, this is one you're probably going to want to pick up if you're anywhere near it on the tree. We have the 9 garrisons of the Great Wall. Of course, they needed a 10th garrison, which is why the Mongols got in, but plus 20% fort defense. That is, I think that this is probably not a very good tech, but okay, let's continue on. We have the Jingdenjian porcelain, which is available in Age of Absolutism, which gives porcelain output and cultural influence. Now, my perspective was building porcelain, we did this a little bit as Korea. You could export it. Well, first of all, cultural influence is something we're happy to get a modifier for. But porcelain kind of has the negative aspect of consuming wood, and quite a lot of it as its input. And also, when on the version we played with Korea, it doesn't have the hyper late game production methods. You only get the production methods in, like, the first and second one, and so it kind of falls off because there aren't later production methods in, like, the later stages of the game, like with manufactories and factories and this type of thing. But besides that, porcelain is a really strong trade good, if we recall correctly, and it sells at a relatively good price. The only reason we don't like it is the... actually, I'm mixing this up with lacquerware. Lacquerware requires wood. I think porcelain's okay. I think porcelain was pretty solid. So, mid-game, this will be relatively solid. Absolutism's kind of getting into the late-ish game. But anytime you can have a comparative advantage in something, this is a very good opportunity to really... go for a lot of it. I don't know how output bonuses stack with production efficiency either, because both are... Production efficiency applies to output, but I don't know if it applies multiplicatively with other output bonuses, in which case output bonuses are a lot better, or if it's additively. But, okay, we make porcelain better, we can specialize in it. Anytime you have a culture-tied output bonus, you should probably, if it's reasonably good industry, be looking to specialize in it. At the start of the game, due to being a non-Chinese emperor, they have a unique law, which gives you status of the Han in your law. And your active policy here that we start with is expel from the bureaucracy. I think we swapped onto something that was, like, incorporate into the bureaucracy. And the reason why is the... Yeah, because the Pop joined Rebels threshold, we were trying to get rid of this malice, if we recall correctly. It's been a while since we touched Yuan, and take a look at that, but we do get a little bit of cultural influence, but I think that you don't want the Rebels to pop, because I believe that's how the Red Turban Rebellion starts, and then it's all downhill from there. So we did get off of this, if I recall correctly. The current policy is due to the presence of the following character, already assigned as head of cabinet at the start due to his powerful influence in Yuan politics, and that is Merkid Bayan. Doesn't seem all that good. He is a Tibetan Buddhist Mongolian. The smug look of superiority, yeah, basically. Gotta make him look smug. Soon after the start of the game, an event will fire, with people rebelling against him. Alright. Shout out to Rebels. The authoritarian policies of Mr. Bayan have, or actually, is it Mr. Merkid? A lot of Asian cultures have the surname first, so we'll say Mr. Merkid. Please, Mr. Merkid was my father, call me Bayan. Have significantly altered the political atmosphere of the Great Yuan in the last couple of years. He wields almost absolute control of the government and is feared even by the entire court and even the emperor himself. To end Bayan's reign of terror, a plot has been forged by Merkid Tokta, who wishes to topple his uncle from a perfidious coup, perhaps even becoming the new Grand Chancellor himself. Unsurprisingly, even Borjin Torgan Timur Huangdi is in on the plot, hoping to limit the power of the powerful aristocrat. Limit the power of this powerful aristocrat? Isn't that a little redundant? I mean, you do want to limit his power because he is powerful, but often you don't want to use, like, two conjugations of the same word in a sentence, just in terms of stylistically. Like, limit the influence, whatever, it doesn't matter. Limit the influence, I think, would be a little bit better, but substituting one autocrat for another will not be without its drawbacks. Yep. We could shout out a lot of different nations here, but let's leave it at that. But it'll allow for further events repeating the same repeating the previous policies. We see Absolute Grand Chancellor giving us more stability decay and crown power. I think that's actually a big number on stab decay, so I don't even know if this is worth it. We generally do like crown power, but crown power is really, really powerful up until you have 25 of it, and then it's much weaker, but it lets you do more of the things. If you have, like, over 25, it lets you do more of the things that decrease your crown power, like owning a bunch of additional land. Interesting. We get the status of the Han. Now that Merkid Toka is in charge, he's looking to reverse his uncle's policies in many fields. As his next target, he is set to reverse the policy of expel from the bureaucracy, which has alienated many Chinese citizens and pushed them towards various rebellions aiming at overthrowing the dynasty. Or is it a dynasty? Comment below. Even during Merkid Bayan's lifetime, the policy was secretly criticized as too harsh. No one could have opposed the powerful dictator. The thing I love about asking whether there's dynasty or dynasty is that, like, it's a pronunciation, so if you respond in text, you can't, like, you just like comment it's dynasty, and then it's like someone responds, no, it's dynasty, and it's the exact same spelling. Okay, now that Merkid Toka is in charge, he's looking to reverse his uncle's policies in many fields. One of them is the direct appointment. The result of this policy was detrimental to our bureaucracy, as it ended the institution that, for centuries, promoted many skilled students' positions in the government to Yuan and his predecessors. Now that Tokta is looking to bring back the Keiju examination, we can only hope that the faith in the system will be restored, and we will subsequently receive many new applicants. Yeah, China kind of invented meritocracy, which is pretty interesting, and they invented it pretty early. Back when everyone else was doing feudalism and, nepotism and this type of thing in terms of who pulled the strings, they were, like, on the scene. But interestingly enough, you can make the argument that, like, they are in some ways more nepotistic in terms of like a cultural element as the result of the type of agrarian society that they have, because wheat versus rice cultivation. There's an interesting study on this, and the study was inter-China, where north of the Yellow River, that's the northern river in China, north of the Yellow River is actually wheat cultivation. It's primarily wheat though, and south of it is rice cultivation, and it's a significant control for the study because you have Han Chinese to the north and Han Chinese to the south, but they have different cultivation. And what they found was, culturally speaking, those that came from descendant or ancestors, had ancestors that were in, or cultural ancestors, in the rice societies were more communally oriented, and then the ones in the wheat societies were more individualistically oriented. And this is used to like make an east versus west type of distinction, because the west grows grain, and the idea was that because rice cultivation involves a large amount of coordination between various people, and it's much more labor intensive. This leads to societies that are more cooperative in nature and coordinated amongst themselves, and the wheat ones are more individualistic. And the rejoinder is, you can make an argument that the more communally oriented ones are in some ways more prone to nepotism relative to the individualistic ones, per like the culture. But in terms of the actual systems that are put in place for governance, China kind of invented meritocracy, but you could like have this like counterfoil in terms of like a cultural argument, which is a little bit interesting. That's way too long a tangent. I apologize. As you know, China and the Yellow River have a propensity to flooding, and there's also an event that for some historical ones that happened close to the start of the game. That's the Yellow River right there. To the north of it, wheat cultivation. To the south of it, rice. I assume that you can even observe this in game, but we'll see. We get catastrophic rains in the Huaiyan. A series of catastrophic weather events have struck Huaiyan, or Huaiyan. I'm not sure pronunciation of this, causing widespread devastation and suffering. That alone is a calamity, but the downpour has reached the Great Canal of China, causing it to fill up and overflow. This unprecedented event has hampered the functioning of the canal, in turn severing the link between the south and the north. Though this damage can theoretically be repaired, it would come at a significant cost, which we cannot possibly bear in the current state. But how can great Yuan, or just regular Yuan, man, the truth, he fell off. We were great Yuan, and then we lost our canal. Damn. Survive without this Grand Canal. So we have the tragedy struck our nation. Catastrophic rains for 15... Wow, Jesus, that's a long time to have catastrophic rains. And we have the Grand Canal of China, which is a modifier. Proximity cost, food capacity plus 100, monthly development growth plus 5%. I assume this is in one location or several locations. If this is in several locations, it starts to look a lot better. And then we see Grand Canal of China damaged, giving additional proximity costs, so the reverse direction. So, of course, we would not want that to be a thing. I wonder if this actually makes it so you want to build near Beijing. So Beijing is kind of in the north portion of China, or in the north eastern. Basically, all of, like, China's population is, like, historically just kind of, like, mainly been on the coast. Actually, I'm not sure if I recall it in game as much, but I do believe it's mostly on the coast. But Beijing is north of the Yellow River. But south of the Yellow River, you do have... it's actually quite a bit north, so the canal wouldn't be there. But south of the Yellow River, towards the coast, is like this Great Plains area, which has a lot of open areas. Probably the easiest place to try and industrialize and build a power base. But there will be a proposal for a permanent solution to the problem via reroute of the river, flood management. Our favorite. The recent catastrophic rains have resulted in the Yellow River changing its flow. Moreover, the flooding of the river has caused widespread pain, misery, and death. To make matters worse, it has even greatly disrupted the operation of the Grand Canal, depriving Beijing of crucial flood imports from the South China. Is Beijing? Is that a different localization of Beijing? In order to alleviate the results of this calamity, our ministers have proposed to assemble a force of 170,000 laborers to return the course of the river back to its proper place. That is so many workers, bro. That's a lot of workers. The scope of China is just like absolutely enormous. Debating history with people is like always like interesting. When people like make the argument that like in these like this kind of era of time period that China is just not like this massive power that just didn't decide to just like colonialize other countries, and they like argue that is like predetermined that Europeans would just like emerge victorious on the world stage is like just super overlooking China. Also, incidentally, like, China's overtaking the West now, and so it's more of a speed bump than just a complete, like, abject, like, failure in terms of global power. China just has a lot of conditions and a lot of people that, like, geopolitically make it very, very favorable in terms of analysis of, like, world dominance or world power. But the biggest one is, like, the number of people you have, I think. Especially as you close technology gaps, efficiency per person tends to diminish. Or sorry, the difference in efficiency per person tends to diminish, and when that happens, it just matters who has more people. But we say Yellow River Works disrupted. A vile agitator has been spreading wicked propaganda amongst the workers. Currently, 170,000. Currently working on the rerouting the Yellow River. As per our records, the character in question, Han Shan Chong, that's kind of fun to say, a zealot of the White Lotus sect who is proselytizing the imminent forthcoming of the Maitreya Buddha. We believe that he had his followers bury a one-eyed stone statue in the root of the project so that the workers would dig it up. The statue was inscribed with a text spelling the end of the Yuan dynasty. Though our forces did their best to stop the upstart from distracting the workers from the project, many did defect, and now we are not sure about the whereabouts of the White Lotus chieftain. Oh no. The case of Han Shan Tong is a victorious dissident operating in the Shandong area of the country. So this is south of Beijing, I believe is north of the Yellow River. He claims descendant of the Song dynasty and is a vivid agitator representing the White Lotus sect. If I recall correctly, the Song dynasty is the one immediately preceding Yuan. This is the dynasty that was defending against the Mongols. During the Yellow River, rerouting the project, he has garnered many supporters amongst the workers, disrupting the process in the meantime. Also, the most recent Chinese dynasty, right? Recently, we have received intel on the exact whereabouts of Han Shan Tong, giving us the information necessary to finally arrest this public enemy. However, such a move could lead to a bold reaction of his fervent red turban-wearing supporters. Got the red turban situation coming up next time. We will make the arrest. This may trigger the Red Turban Rebellion situation, and he gets imprisoned forever. So, I wonder if you're just supposed to do alas, there's nothing we could do about it. I'm sure that there is a really powerful way of navigating the Red Turban Rebellion, or it's hard for it to simultaneously be cataclysmic as Yuan, and also not super easy if you make the swap to Ming, right? So one of these is going to be very, very strong, or both. If the player agency is sufficient on both. There are many other historical events. Here are some extra examples. You have Yuan Shi, or is that Shi? Shi? It is customary for each successive Chinese dynasty to have have the history of its preceding one compiled and added to the official history's collection. Now it's time to do the same for the preceding Yuan. I guess the Yuan's no more. Thankfully, Song Lian is interested in doing so, but requires additional funds to make it into a reality. And we have the history of the Yuan is a great work, regionally well known. It is chronicle. It's brother. Created in 1337. Someone used console commands here because China doesn't fall that quickly. Okay, but obviously when they're pulling screenshots, making screenshots, they just make all the stuff pop instantly, but that's a little fast to be losing the Yuan dynasty. We see a great admiral Admiral Zhang He. So here's the thing. China had this massive expedition of exploratory fleets. And what they did is they just toured the world, and they were looking to see if there was anything out there, anything cultured. You know, we were going to make a microbiology joke, but there wasn't enough culture in it. And what they found was no one even remotely compared. I think they brought back a giraffe to China, but no one remotely compared to the power of China from the perspective of the expedition led by Zhang He. And following this, they just said, no more. We're closing off. Nothing else interesting is out there. And they just completely stopped all exploration and just outward-oriented journeys categorically. And then they, like, banned it. Like, it was hyper, like, not allowed. And they had some of the most massive and powerful seafaring vessels. And then they just, like, were like, no, this is enough of that. We got all the culture we need right here. Shout out to microbiology. So, more often than not, commoners and prisoners of war find it difficult to rise through the social ranks. Yet it is quite remarkable when one such individual appears. This has been the case. This is the case of the eunuch by the name of Zhang He, having been captured and castrated. Yikes! At a young age, Zhang He began his servitude in the local house, of a local prince in Yuan, which is in southwest China. After winning the prince's trust, he was sent to Khan Bailik, or actually, the tribes southwest of China, depending on your interpretation for Yunnan, I think, to home his education, where he excelled. It is no miracle that such a man made a great impression on Borjin Tongon Timur Huangdi. It is without a doubt that Zhang He will make a fine admiral and leader for our glorious people. The great Admiral Zhang He. So, we see him as a character. What's that stat line, bro? We can't do better for Zhang He? Interesting that he's Sunni. I actually don't know all that much about Zhang He. I wish I knew what this was, but I do think this is an explorer trait. And I imagine you do get a little bit of flavor as it relates to exploring. So, another interesting thing available to China is the Great Wall, represented by two different buildings. The ancient Great Wall of China represents the old parts of the wall, already present at Game Start, and obviously not buildable anymore, where the Great Wall of China is the one that gets built when a section of the wall is repaired or expanded. We see the ancient Great Wall. It is a size 1 fort with a 100 garrison. Very, very nice, actually, as a building. I really do kind of... So, the amount of disruption to, let's call it, cost ratio, I think is just really, really strong on, like, size 1 forts, just generally speaking. Because even if you're going to... Well, if you have a turbo-fast assault... We won't get into those weeds. But I do think that the fact that it blocks zone of control is really substantive. And if you have way smaller like maintenance costs on the building, like if the maintenance cost is half and the fort size level is half, you can use it to really gum up specific lanes and this type of stuff strategically, and then put the bigger forts on the good targets, and something like this is the way to do it. Also, Chinese like cities, like the walls around the cities are just so big relative to like the European walls in this time period, like 20-foot thick walls with like I think that the way they did it was also different. Like they use like packed earth, which takes longer to do, but like doesn't have or is harder to break through than the stones. I forget. I don't remember the details on it, but I do believe the walls are more sturdy. But continuing on, then we have the Great Wall of China, which is garrison size plus 100, adds a fort level, and allows zone of control, yes. Oh, so this doesn't project a zone of control. Is that the idea? Well, that's a substantive difference. You do see that the required production methods also now include tar in here. We don't like tar, though. Tar uses wood as an output. We hate it. I do be deleting forts at game start. It's kind of, I think, an important gameplay pattern. But then, eventually, you know, you build them up when you're playing City Builder. The locations where the Great Wall is present at game start, you see all stretching throughout. Very, very cool. This is... Beijing is... Let's see, where's... I think Beijing's, like, right here. Shandong, I think, is down here. Where's the Yellow River, exactly? I want to say the Yellow River's, like, somewhere in here. In terms of thinking through some of the stuff we've seen. I can't really place the Yellow River on the map, though, just by memory. We are looking at northern China right here, though. The location of the walls is the present start, and many, many more. Oh, baby! After freaking months of misreading Pavia's and many more, we get Roger on the mic with and many, many more. That's twice as many's, which is fitting for China. There's like 1,000 locations. It's just like an insane country to play. It's like no other country like smacks you in the face of that's a lot of stuff in the same way China does. But we cannot show everything here, so that will be all for today. Next week we will be back with the following schedule. Monday, no map review to post this week. Sorry, boo. Boo. Wednesday, Tinto talks about the Red Turban Rebellion. Yay! Yay! And Crisis of the Chinese Dynasty. And Friday, Tinto Flavour about Ayutthaya, Da Viet, and Kumai. Wow, all three in one go, all of Southeast China. Interesting. We did play a little bit as Kumai. Thought that they seemed kind of interesting / strong, had some interesting techs and bonuses, so exciting to be able to review that publicly and this type of stuff. And remember, of course, to wishlist Europa Universalis, which is not the real name of the game, but it is, you know, an anagram. Comment what anagram you think it is below. What is it? Rival lovers pursue a vain love or something? It's something like that. Is probably my favorite anagram so far. But I hope you guys enjoyed. This is China for you. If you did, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe. If you didn't, reconsider the way you spend your time, because this is the end of what is like a 30-minute video. And so if you hated this all the way through, just seething with like animosity, you probably... well, you're either a hate watcher or you need to reevaluate how you spend your time. But that said, if you've been on YouTube for a while, consider getting up and getting a stretch, a drink of water, take a drink of water, this type of stuff. You know, YouTube algorithm stuff, I think we already mentioned that. Notification bell is a helpful one. And other than that, y'all have a good one.